I want to leave school at the end of this year. My parents want me to finish secondary school, but I want to get a job. I'd like to buy a car. I think I can get a job at a television station. I'd like to be a journalist.
I think your parents are right. It's important to finish school. I think everyone needs a good education. You can study journalism at college after you finish school. If you have a good education, you can do any job.
Hey Ali, come and have a look at this. It's a program for teaching you how to use a spreadsheet. It's a simulation, but it's exactly like a real spreadsheet. It's got questions too, and it gives you feedback when you enter your answer. It's great.
I'll have a look at it if you like, but I really don't like learning with the computer. I'd prefer to go to a class and listen to a teacher. I can ask the teacher questions. And anyway, I can speak to other students when I'm in a class. I like that.
But I sometimes have to take one of my kids to the doctor and I miss a class. Then it's hard to catch up again. With the computer, I can practice over and over again at my own pace, and I can skip over the things I already know.
Yes, but I have a very good teacher. She explains the difficult parts until I really understand them. I learn more that way. And I don't mind if I have to repeat the things I already know. It helps me to remember them.
Hi Peter, it's good to see you. Sorry I haven't been in touch. How are things going at your new school?
It's okay. At least it's better than the old school. There's not so much emphasis on sport, for one thing, and that's great for me. I can focus on the subjects I really like music and art. And I don't get hassled by the other kids or by the teachers.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I heard a bit about that from Ben. I had no idea it was so bad for you before. You should have told me the kids were giving you a hard time, and I could have helped you. At least it might have been a bit easier if you'd been able to talk to someone about what was happening.
I'm sorry, Sarah. I know you'd have been okay about it, but I just couldn't talk about it with anyone. Not even my parents. I'm not sure why. I felt too ashamed, I guess. Most people think bullying isn't a problem if they've never been picked on themselves. They either don't see it, or they just ignore it. They have no idea how devastating it is.
You did well to get out and find another school. How's your new school different?
Well, teachers and students respect each other, and students respect other students. Oh, and the teachers notice when you do something well. At the old school, people only noticed you when you did something awful. At my new school, it doesn't matter if you're no good academically, or if you're hopeless at sport. The teachers help you to find something that you're good at, and then everyone's very encouraging. I just wish I'd found out about this school earlier. It would have saved me years of misery.
I'm reading a book about Elvis Presley. He was very, very famous. Everyone knew about Elvis. He had lots of money. He had a wonderful voice. He had a very big, expensive house. He had a beautiful wife called Priscilla and daughter called Lisa Marie. He had everything he wanted. He was very lucky.
Oh, I don't agree. I think he was very unlucky. He had lots of problems. He didn't have many good friends. His wife and daughter left him, and he died when he was young. He was rich and famous, but he wasn't happy.
Have you read this article about the 10 most popular actors in the world? They're so lucky. They're really rich, really famous, and really good looking. I envy them. There are articles about them in magazines nearly every week. I'd love to be rich and famous.
Huh, I wouldn't. I think it'd be awful. You'd have no privacy at all. People would hassle you all the time because they want your autograph. The paparazzi would take photographs of you whenever you went out. So you couldn't ever go out in old clothes or with your hair in a mess. Oh, and you'd have to be cheerful all the time. I'd hate that.
But actors need all the publicity they can get. And they just have to sacrifice their private lives, I guess. But I think it'd be worth the sacrifice for the fame and the money.
I can't believe you mean that. Look at the price actors pay. They've got a really high divorce rate. A lot of them have problems with drugs and alcohol. They hardly ever see their children. And they need bodyguards to protect them. That's no way to live your life.
Look at this, will you? It's appalling. He's a professional sportsman and he behaves like this. He should be more responsible. People who are in the public eye should set a good example for the rest of us.
Oh, come on. I think you're being unreasonable. They might be famous, but they are only human. Why should we expect them to behave any differently from the rest of us?
Well, they're only rich and famous because of us, the public. And I think we have a right to expect something from them in return. Also, young kids idolise them and they try to emulate them. I'm glad my kids have grown up. I wouldn't want them to be influenced by someone like that.
But other people behave badly. It's just not reported in the newspapers. Sensational stories about famous people sell newspapers and boost TV ratings. Anyway, how do you know that what they've written about him is even true?
Well, I suppose I can't know for sure, but kids will assume it's true. They think anything that's in a newspaper or on TV is true. Anyway, I think there must be some truth in it because the stories are always about him. You never read stories about the other players on his team. It's got to mean something.
My granddaughter, Sophie, is learning Japanese at school this year. She's 8. All the children at her school learn another language. Some children learn Japanese, and some children learn Italian.
That's great. Sophie is lucky. It's easy to learn another language when you're young. I learned German at school, and I went to Germany when I was 23. I got a good job in Germany because I spoke 2 languages.
Oh, I'm trying to finish this grammar exercise. It's homework for my Spanish class. I'll have a test about it tonight.
I didn't know you were studying Spanish. Actually, I've often thought I'd like to learn it too. I'd like to go to South America one day, and it'd be really useful to know a few words. Is it very difficult to learn?
No, it's not hard. Actually, Spanish is similar to English, in some ways. But oh, it's difficult to find the time to study. After I get home from work, I get the dinner ready. Then I go next door and talk to my grandchildren and catch up with Georgia and Philip, my daughter and her partner. And after dinner I feel too tired to study. So I watch TV for a while and then I go to bed.
Yes, I know what you mean. I studied French many years ago, just before I went to France for a holiday. I couldn't go to French classes, but I bought French tapes and listened to them in the car. I watched French films and read French newspapers. I learnt to speak French quite well. I was pleased because I met a really nice woman in Paris. Simone and I got married 12 months later.
Ali, I've been thinking about something you said yesterday. You know, about your children only speaking English. I was really surprised. You speak Arabic, don't you? Well, I wondered why you don't encourage your kids to learn it.
But we live here now, and English is the most important language. I want my kids to get good jobs, and they need good English language skills to do that. I really think it's more important to help them become very proficient in English. Anyway, they can always learn another language when they're older, if they want to do that.
But it's so much easier to learn a language when you're young. It would be really easy for them to pick up Arabic if you spoke Arabic at home.
I think it just confuses kids if they hear too many different languages. They won't be good at either language if they have to swap between languages. No, I think they're better off if they just speak English.
What about you? You speak 2 languages fluently. You know that kids pick up new languages very easily. You see it all the time. And I don't think you're right about children becoming confused. The 3 young children who live next door to us speak 2 languages. They speak English with their mother and Italian with their father. I don't know what the kids' Italian is like, but their English is excellent. Anyway, I think your language is part of who you are. It's a big part of your cultural identity.
But that part of our life is finished. We live here now, and we need to take on a new culture and new identity. You can't keep living in the past. We have to move on.
Did you read the article in the newspaper yesterday about the baby pandas? The mother panda had twins. They were born at the zoo on Saturday.
No, I didn't read the newspaper yesterday, but I saw the pandas on the news on TV. They're really sweet.
I have to do an assignment on global warming, and I need to get some information quickly. The project's due in on Wednesday.
I guess you have access to the internet. I type global warming or climate change into a search engine. I think you get thousands of hits.
Yes, I've already done that. There's a lot of information on the internet about global warming, but there are so many different opinions. It's often hard to find out who wrote the article, what their qualifications are, and who they work for.
Yes, I agree with you. I guess you should stick to sites that belong to universities or government departments or the news channels. They're usually quite reliable. But then you'll have to look at all the information and all the issues and make up your own mind.
I'm tired of getting so much unsolicited email. Honestly, I get at least 8 or 10 emails every day that I don't want and have no interest in. I'm sick of it. There should be some way of stopping it.
I couldn't agree more. I get them too. Actually, we don't get them at work anymore, but we get lots of them at home. I never open any attachments, of course. I'm too worried about viruses. I hate the ones that offer huge salaries for doing nothing. Oh, and the ones that tell me I can get a cheap loan. I can't believe anyone would take up an offer like that from someone they've never heard of.
Yes, they never say exactly who they are, and they don't give any contact details like a phone number or a physical address so you can find out more about them. Still, I suppose some people must take up their offers, or you'd think they'd stop sending them.
I don't know about that. There are some scams that have been going on for years. Have you ever received the one from someone who wants to put 30 million in your bank account? They want you to send them your bank details. You'd have to be pretty stupid to fall for that one.
Well, you can't blame anyone for that. Most people are quite trusting. Personally, I think the responsibility lies with the ISP. They should filter out junk mail so we don't ever see it.
Oh, I can't agree with you, I'm afraid. I want to decide what I keep and what I delete. I don't know how they stop the junk emails at work, but I think I can set up my email at home so I can stop the ones I don't want. I think you just type in any word you want the filter to find, and then you decide what you want to do with the emails that have those words in them.
My family arrived here about 20 years ago. I was 13 and my brother was 8. I spoke Arabic, but I didn't speak English. It was very difficult. When did you come here?
I was born here. My father was born in China. He came here 33 years ago, and my mother came here about 31 years ago. She was born in Malaysia, but her parents were born in China.
Thank goodness it's Friday. I'm really looking forward to the weekend. Would you like to come over for dinner on Saturday night?
I'd love to, Sharon, but I'm going to my cousin Maria's wedding. It's going to be a traditional Greek wedding. You know, a Greek ceremony, then Greek music, food and dancing. Both Maria's and Ari's families are Greek, so it'll be a really big event. All their friends and family will be there. I'm really looking forward to it.
So you've all lived here for years and years, but you still keep up all the Greek customs.
Oh, my family hasn't kept up with all the Greek traditions, but Maria's family has. Maria's parents came here when they were very young, but they still read Greek newspapers and they always speak Greek at home. They feel as if they belong to both countries.
Did you hear that Martina's parents are arriving here next month? They're emigrating. Oh, it's taken a really long time to organise, and of course Martina's so excited.
That's really great news for Martina and her parents. I think it's very important for families to be reunited. But I know some people who don't want people from other countries to come here to live.
Yes, I know. I never really understood why. We can all learn from each other. You know, we all have different experiences, different cultures, different religions. I think it's great to have a multicultural population. Oh, and I love all the exotic food at the market. Oh, it makes life so much more interesting.
Yeah, but what about jobs? We don't have enough jobs for everyone as it is. And I know that a lot of people think our population's changing too quickly. They're really worried that if lots of people from different ethnic and cultural backgrounds come here, their own lives will change. And they don't want that to happen.
But what about the argument that it's better to have a bigger population? You know, everyone needs to buy things like food and clothes. So, the more people there are, the more the economy is stimulated.
Well, I'm not really sure about that. How many people can this country support? If our population keeps on increasing like this, there'll be even bigger problems with our water supply and air pollution and unemployment. People assume that somehow we'll manage if our population keeps on increasing, but it could be disastrous.
I don't play football, but my brother, Stephen, plays football all the time. He plays football after school every day, and he plays with his team every weekend. He's very fit. Stephen wants to be a professional footballer.
My brother is different. Mark never plays football, but he sometimes watches tennis on TV. He really likes computers. Mark's always working on his computer. He wants to get a job with computers when he leaves school.
Have you noticed that there's not much women's sport on the news on TV? We see 10 or 15 minutes of men's sport every night, but they hardly ever show any women's sport. It's not fair.
They don't show women's sport on TV because it isn't as exciting as men's sport. Most people aren't interested in it. Why would the TV network show something that most people don't want to watch?
How do you know people aren't interested in women's sport? They've never had a chance to watch it. Most women's sport is exactly the same as men's sport. It's just as fast, just as dangerous, just as skillful, and just as exciting.
Well, if you think it's so important, you should contact the TV channels. Write to them and ask them to include more women's sport on TV.
Did you see the interview with that swimmer on Sports World last night? I can't remember his name, but you'd know him. The interviewer asked him if he's ever used drugs, but he said he hasn't. I just don't believe him. His shoulders are huge, and so are his muscles.
I feel sorry for him. It must be really difficult. I'm sure that most athletes don't want to take drugs. Everybody knows how bad they are for your body. I think sport is so competitive these days, and there's so much money involved, that an elite athlete would have to be tempted to take drugs, even if they didn't really want to.
But it's cheating. It doesn't matter what their reason is for taking drugs. Athletes are supposed to compete on their ability. They take drugs to make them stronger, or heal faster when they're injured, or have more stamina. It's just not fair. They aren't competing on a level playing field.
You're being rather tough. Just imagine, you're a young athlete with loads of talent. There's a big match or an important competition coming up, and you've pulled a muscle. Nothing too serious, but it'd be enough to stop you from competing. Then the coach or the team doctor or a friend offers to give you a tablet that'd help the muscle to heal faster. What do you think you'd do? Don't you think that you'd be tempted to take the tablet?
If I accept what you're saying, then it's just the athlete with the best drugs that wins. Athletes have to expect injuries. It doesn't matter how well they look after themselves or how well they train. Anyone can get injured. No, you'll never convince me that it's all right for an athlete to take drugs. Not unless you want to have two competitions, of course. One for clean athletes and one for athletes who've used drugs.
Well, no. Of course I wouldn't want that. I don't think athletes should use drugs either. But I think that the temptation's there, and until they perfect drug screening tests, some athletes will be tempted to use drugs. Auntie Gina, I've got an email from Tony and Angela. They arrived at the hotel at 11 o'clock yesterday morning. They're having a wonderful holiday. Can you phone them? They want to visit us for lunch next Sunday, but they don't know how to get here.
Oh, that's easy. I can fax a map to them tomorrow. Can you send them an email? Tell them we'd love to see them on Sunday, and I'll phone them at about 8 o'clock tonight. Oh, and will you ask them what their mobile number is?
Hello, Jack. You look very happy and relaxed today. Did you have a good weekend?
Yes, I had a wonderful weekend. Peggy and I went to Green Park on Saturday. It's our wedding anniversary next Wednesday. We've been married for 43 years. We had a picnic, and then we walked to the waterfall. It was very quiet and beautiful and clean. We saw lots of different sorts of birds. We had a really good time.
You know, we went to Waterloo Park on Sunday. We took the kids, and one of my aunts came too. But we were really disappointed.
I haven't been to Waterloo Park for a long time. Why were you so disappointed?
Well, it's all changed. You can't drive up the main road to the lighthouse now. You have to use the walking track. The kids and Bill and I could have walked there, but my aunt couldn't. She's got very bad arthritis.
Well, I think it's a good idea to keep cars off that road. So many people go to the park at the weekend, and that road was always crowded. The cars really damaged the road too, especially when it was wet. I think we need to preserve places like that.
We watched a really amazing documentary on Antarctica last night. It was mainly about the wildlife, but there were some wonderful shots of the scenery as well. It looks spectacular. Did you see it?
Yes, we watched it too. Wasn't it fantastic? I'd love to go there one day. Sue says that if we start saving now, we might be able to afford it by the time we retire. It's so expensive, but I think it'd be worth it. It'd be the experience of a lifetime.
It'd be great to see it all firsthand, I guess. But I think that if lots of tourists go there, the place will be destroyed. Someone will end up building a 50-story hotel there, and that'd be awful. In fact, now I come to think of it, I don't think there's a single reason why tourists should be allowed to go to Antarctica.
Oh, come on, Gina. Don't be such a pessimist. You can't prevent progress, you know. And anyway, tourism needn't wreck everything. There are lots of popular wilderness areas where tourists go, and tourism hasn't really ruined those places.
Look at what's happened to Mount Everest. It used to be pristine. Now there are literally tons of rubbish that climbers have left on the mountain. It's stuff they carried in, but couldn't be bothered taking away with them. Luckily, not many people go to Antarctica at the moment because it costs an absolute fortune. But if the prices ever fall, I'm sure the place will be changed forever.
I've set up your new computer, Jack, and everything's working. It's great. Now how will I get rid of the old one? It's no use to anyone, but we can't put it out with the rubbish.
That's true. And anyway, that'd be bad for the environment. But why do we have to throw it out? It still works. There must be someone who could use it. It's still good for word processing and things like that.
But why would anyone else want it if you don't? And don't worry about the environment. It's only one computer.
Well, yes, it is only one computer. But think about all the computers that are discarded every day in countries all around the world. There must be thousands of them. I wonder if my old computer could be recycled. Maybe there are recycling companies that could use some of the parts. I'll see what I can find out.
Isn't the internet wonderful? This week I've ordered a book online, and even with delivery, it cost less than it would have if I'd bought it locally. I've also booked plane tickets for our holiday, and they were much cheaper than I could get them from the local travel agent. And I've even paid the bills, all without leaving the house. Oh, it's great.
Yes, it is amazing. I know the internet's really convenient and easy to use, but it makes me a bit worried sometimes. What's going to happen to our local businesses? The travel agent and the bookshop, to name just two. I'm sure the internet will put them out of business. They just can't compete with online businesses.
No, that's right. They won't survive. Things are really changing because of the internet, especially now that almost everyone has access to it. But if it's cheaper to buy things over the internet, then that's what people will do. And they'd be mad not to.
Yes, I know. But it seems such a shame, though. I really like the personal attention I get when I go to the local shops. Most of the people there know me by name, or at least they recognize me, and we can have a chat. I really like that. The internet is so impersonal.
But Jack, it's so much quicker and easier to shop around and compare prices on the internet. And you can do it at any time of the day or night.
Yes, I'm sure you're right. But I'd prefer to support my local businesses, even if it does cost a bit more. Oh, and the other thing is, when I don't know exactly what I want, when I need some advice about what to buy, there's always someone I can talk to help me sort it out. You don't get that on the internet.